There's a button on it. Steve, there's a button on it.
Is there a button on it?
Steve, there's a button on the top. The silver part. See it?
Okay, everybody hear me, I hope? Can't wait to
No.
call. No?
Working on it.
That's a shell.
We can hear you good.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Sounds like it's working.
Yeah.
You guys just start talking and I'm getting into the recording, but I'm not getting it too well in the room.
I'll just talk really loud.
Bring it closer.
And pull the mic close to you, please.
Pull the mic closer, he said.
Say what?
He said, pull the mic closer.
How close is that? Okay,
That's
how's
good,
that?
yeah.
That's good.
Whoa,
I feel like a rock singer or
I dare you.
something. Anyway, again, calling this meeting to order. Council of Government meetings of July 30th, 2019. Welcome everybody here. You see the agenda in front of you. We're going to, as we go through it, maybe make a couple of changes. The school board has a work session tonight scheduled, so we'd like to try to get through some of the school board stuff quickly and then get on to, which I think a lot of the people behind me, and I apologize for having to look at my back, that obviously want to hear about potential panhandling issues and solutions and things of that sort. So with that being said, first up, as promised, Charlie Kennedy is going to present the Community Partnership School. So the floor is yours, Charlie. Thank you.
I don't know. Somebody gave it to me.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate
I'll
it,
share with you.
Mr. Chair. I will start this off with, does anybody have any spare change? Gotcha. All right, we have a lot on the agenda today, so I will be as brief as possible. What I would like to present to you is an idea, thank you to the leadership of Superintendent Cynthia Saunders, is coming to fruition in Manatee County. And the concept is called a Community Partnership School, and as the name implies, it is a partnership of community organizations and entities, in this case, to alleviate the strains of children and families who are living in poverty, okay? That's basically the elevator speech, and so I just want you to kind of keep that broad framework in mind. Okay. Community schools are a relatively new concept in Florida. There are about 15 of them. When Manatee Elementary begins to operate as a community partnership school in the 2020-21 school year, we will be the first in the Southwest Florida region. The closest one to us, as you'll see shortly in the presentation, is Mort Elementary in Tampa. But as you can see from the graphic here, what the purpose of the partnership, as I said, is to relieve poverty. This is just a little editorial cartoon of some of the baggage that students of poverty bring to school with them. You guys are all very well versed in education issues, so you know it's some of the additional obstacles to Title I kids can be, especially specific to us, can be drug abuse or involvement in the home, violence, domestic violence, violence in the neighborhood, in addition to homelessness, hunger, general food instability in general. Okay. So what we want to do with the partnership is we want to take some of that baggage off these students' hands. Because Bronwyn is going to cover grade level reading shortly, I'm going to skip over that, but obviously the Partnership School project is aligned with the goals of the grade level reading campaign, and the grade level reading campaign has now been in effect, I think, for 3 years? 6? Wow, I guess I'm far behind. Thank you, Bronwyn. But we are, aligned with that campaign, but I'll leave that to Bronwyn to cover after I go. What you're seeing here is our third grade results updated through the results we just received about a month ago. And I want to thank Conrad Zamansky for the updating our data here. So as you can see, we're making progress, but I'll direct you down to the last 2 bullet points. In our Title I schools that have a higher minority enrollment, you'll notice for the second bullet point from the bottom, the proficiency numbers are 32%. So 77% minority enrollment, 32% proficiency on third grade reading levels. So there's an inverse relationship between levels of poverty and outcomes on third grade ELA, English and language arts. Okay. Now here's what's interesting about the model of a community partnership school. You've really got, as the folks at Children's Home Society will often say, is that if you've seen one community partnership school, you've only seen one community partnership school, because they're all a little bit different. But each one has these 4 core partners. And it's a little small on the screen, but I'll walk you through it. From the top left, we have the university. Sorry, it's a little far to. No, I'm fine. I'm fine, Diane. Thank you. Let me start with the school district. Okay, so the school district, a university partner, a health care provider, and then our nonprofit. And that can be multiple nonprofits, but let me just start with the first 4. So obviously we have the school district. We have a property at Manatee Elementary School. So the school district, our piece of the partnership is to provide a space for these other partners to operate. Our health partner, Manatee County Rural Health, MCR. MCR will be there to provide dental, medical, vision. Our first nonprofit partner, Children's Home Society, who is a statewide agency based in Orlando, and they were one of the original partners in the initial community partnership school that started in Orlando. Children's Home Society is also one of the largest providers of mental health for youth in the state. And then finally, our university partner is the University of South Florida at Sarasota Manatee. So each of the core partners brings their expertise onto campus. And as you all know, if you can coordinate and collaborate with other organizations and nonprofits, you really get the most bang for your buck in serving low-income students and families. Okay. We've got 4 partners to start. We've got 4 pillars, as you can see here: collaborative leadership model, extended learning, wellness, and family and community engagement. I'll hit each of these individually, but let me just show you what community partnerships looks like in Florida today. As you can see from the top. Okay. Evans High School in Orlando was the first partnership school, and a UCF professor named Dr. Amy Ellis was an administrator at Evans High School and was part of the team that launched that first community partnership school. She then moved on from Orange County Schools to the University of Central Florida, where she kind of oversees this program statewide for the school districts that they now work with. From there, you can see, you can get the visual, and I won't walk you through the whole thing. But as I said, we would be Manatee Elementary and Manatee County. We would be the first district in Southwest Florida to attempt a community partnership school. Okay, let me walk you through Mort. As I said, Mort is the closest partnership school to us here. Mort is sometimes referred to as, the neighborhood is referred to as Suitcase City because it's a very transient population there. So as you can imagine, it's mostly low income. This is what their core partnerships looks like. As you can see there are 6 core partners in their leadership model. Okay. Expanded learning, pretty much self-explanatory. The school day at Manatee Elementary, kids can begin to show up on campus at 8 a.m. The cafeteria is open. The first bell rings at 8:30, and the school day ends at 3. Okay. Obviously, for working parents, especially some of the Families we're hoping to serve are working 2 jobs. They have daycare issues. So the intent of the partnership, with the help of some of your nonprofits, is to expand that day. So, for example, the campus will open at 7 a.m. The campus will remain open until 7 p.m. During that time, from 7 to 8 a.m., there is enrichment. There is, the kids aren't just sitting around on campus. They come and they are engaged in activities or something that will contribute to their academic progress. Same thing after school. It's clubs, it's athletics, it's tutoring. Potentially, it's classes and services for the families as well, but I'll get into that in 1 second. Okay. Wellness, pretty self-explanatory. The hope is that MCR and potentially the University of South Florida Health System will provide, as I said, medical, dental, vision, and fortunately, the state legislature, as you're probably aware, has devoted a lot of funds to adolescent mental health. But as I said, Children's Home Society is also a mental health provider. Okay. Family and community engagement. This is essentially not only, as I said, do we want to serve the student, but we also want to serve the family. For example, if we have children with Spanish-speaking parents at home, we want to offer you English classes. If we have parents or guardians at home who don't have a high school diploma, we want to offer you a GED class. We want to get you on track to MTC, for example. It's about building up the entire family, ending that cycle of poverty which many of these families are living in. Kind of what is in process right now for the Manatee Elementary Partnership School is a community needs assessment. So once that needs assessment is finished, we will take what the families and the communities have told us they need, and then we will try to offer that instead of coming in and telling them what they need or hoping they need, but we will follow the family's lead. Let me back up. I almost skipped over something important. As you can see here, a clothes closet, a food pantry, just kind of the things you would think that a family who is struggling financially, is living paycheck to paycheck, is kind of one emergency away from a financial disaster. That short-term help a family may need, whether it's food, clothing, again, whatever they kind of let us know that they need. Okay, here's just a quick look at some numbers from Mort Elementary, 461 vision appointments, 700 healthcare checks, 3,000. That second line there is about enrichment hours, and that bottom line is volunteer. 5,800 volunteer hours performed by over 450 volunteers, and to be honest with you, okay, sorry if you can't see it, that 156 is family events and activities held. Okay, how does this funding work? Pretty simple. It is a public-private partnership. There is multiple streams of public funding from the school district, from the state legislature. There is private funding from the philanthropic community. So if you are a philanthropist and you're out there listening, or you hear this down the road and you would like to get involved with a brand new effort with Manatee County Schools and our partners, please, you can let us know. We'll be happy to bring you into the fold. Same thing with any nonprofits. If you are a nonprofit either in this room or you are hearing this later, and you believe that you have you would like to contribute to this partnership, you can certainly let us know at the school district, and we would love to sit down and talk with you. And so each partner kind of brings in whatever is their piece of expertise. At the school district, it's our faculty, it's the assets of the school district, but it's also the space. That's okay, Diane, I'm almost done. I think that was the computer trying to tell me to wrap it up. I'll be back. So anyway, I was just about done anyway. So I promised the chair I would be quick, so I will wrap up with that. But again, I want to thank the superintendent. I want to thank my board colleagues on the Manatee County School Board for their support of this idea. We are in this school year that is about to open up is what's called our planning and implementation year. But next summer, this school will begin to operate as a community partnership school, and we are very excited about it. Thank you for listening. Any questions? Or Commissioner Benak?
This sounds like a great concept. I just wonder, things like a food bank, who would partner? You know, our food bank has challenges. You know, right now, we may be without a food bank in the near future, given the way things are going. So have those kind of things been decided, or are you in the stages of trying to figure all that out?
Go ahead,
I know
Cindy.
we discussed this yesterday.
Yep.
We're looking at partnering with resources in Tampa, but that would be something that the community could take the initiative to start up. But yes, we are looking at putting a food bank at the school site as well.
So are you anticipating this will be done mostly by volunteers or by school staff?
Well, we would like more, it's going to be with organizations. You know, the school staff really, their concentration is making sure they're instructing the education that needs to happen, but all these extra resources, these secondary needs that the schools have so that they can learn, that's really where the partnerships come in with community members and other organizations and volunteers. So that would be, but that is one of the items that would occur at that site, is a food bank there.
Okay. And I asked this specifically because I did, well, couple of reasons. I sit on the Kiwanis Foundation Board, and as you know, or maybe you don't know, we have our big back-to-school event for the homeless kids in Manatee County coming up this Saturday, which is a large event. I also attended an event at Oasis Church on this past Saturday, and they operate in some 40-some churches throughout the Sarasota-Manatee County area, and this is a private group, working with the churches, but working with all the community partners. So the only thing I would say is there's a lot of different efforts going on. We don't want to duplicate those. We want to make sure the resources are used, you know, as efficiently as possible. You know, when I spoke to the people and I can't remember, I can't remember the name of the group, and I will say it before we get done because I want to give them the creds.
Project
Not Operation Heart. Operation Heart is the school's operation that gives you the like they do for Kiwanis Club, give us the names of the homeless kids. But it's the group that does the Hope for Communities. Thank you, Hope for Communities, that do this incredible program. But when I looked, and they said, and they were giving away these giant carts full of food, and I said, where did you get the food from? Well, from All Faiths Food Bank in Sarasota. How many do you have in Manatee? Very few. Why do you have very few in Manatee? Well, we haven't been able to get it together with the school board. We haven't been able to get it together. But I was at Oasis Church on Lorraine Road, and it was incredible. But we've got some ways to go. So I hope, and I know my church volunteers at Manatee Elementary. I know that we do pack-a-sack at Manatee Elementary. Right. You know, we're already there. So I hope that this process, it's going to have to be inclusive. You're going to have to reach out so that we do take advantage of some of these.
Well, I'll make a comment, and then Charlie can too. And I think that's one of the things that we've discovered is there's a lot of great initiatives and support occurring in the community. A lot of people want to help. And I think it's us having a comprehensive list and bringing in those resources and partners so that we're not overlapping. And I think that's what we discovered with a grade level reading campaign is everybody's trying to accomplish the same thing, but they're so focused on their parts, they're not pulling in everybody together so that they understand, oh, well, this one's doing this one's doing this piece, so that we're not duplicating our efforts and we're able to spread the need across. But Charlie, you can answer to that too.
Yeah, Commissioner Bedak, Cindy's already covered it, but you're absolutely right. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just want to provide a space where people who are, organizations who are already doing this work can come and serve the clients that their mission intends. And you also hit on another point. We are in the early stages of the planning and implementation year. So while we and the working group, which includes Dr. Connard and Cindy Saunders as the co-chairs of the working group, we have been in discussions for a while, and we have kind of reaching out to nonprofits that would like to be engaged. But we There are no MOUs in place yet. That's what we intend to do during this planning year. So it's a good point. We are still forming what will be on this campus. But yeah, we have no intention of trying to replace anybody in town. And just for what you said at the end there, part of the reason I wanted to do this presentation today is not just to get it in front of you all as community leaders, but also just get it out to the greater community. If you weren't aware, we are doing this, and is there a place where your organization can fit in?
See, since this is, I had one idea, since this is in the city, how many students are we talking about? How many kids are we talking about in this city?
Well, right now, Manatee L serves around 400 students. However, we do anticipate that zone to change the following year because we are looking at, based on some even conversations that happened here with transportation and efficiency and so forth. So we anticipate probably in the neighborhood of about 600 students.
Okay. Yeah, there's definitely a need there. 30 years ago, I served on their board of directors over there, and it was a pretty tough neighborhood. It's gotten a little better, but it's still pretty tough.
Well, we want to make sure that we're impacting not only the students, but their families, and making things as productive as possible. We're hoping, we have lofty goals, but we're hoping to expand also to the same partnership, community partnership school at Daughtry Elementary in the future, and then also providing one North County as well. But this will be our first prototype.
Gene?
Thank you. I attended the presentation that was done there at the school, and there was very few people there, so I wanted to find out what the outcome from that meeting was when you talked to the parents, or was there any outcome measurements from after that presentation?
To be honest with you, that was our first introductory session to introduce the concept to the families. That was probably our fault because I agree, I was in the room and the turnout was not as good as we had hoped. But that was a kind of learning moment for us at the district we've got to give the families more lead time. But school is starting in 2 weeks, and we will. We learned from. It was for the families that were there. It was a good session, and they got a really good overview of what their children can expect and what they as a family can expect. But that was kind of our first attempt at parent reach out, and we could have done a better job.
But there was no feedback from those parents that you've got yet, or?
Not formally. I mean, we're in the process now of a formal community needs assessment. So I'm. Personally, to me, I know Tammy Van Overbeck, who is the principal at Manatee L. She has had conversations individually with parents, but we want to kind of formalize that feedback from the families. So kind of anecdotal and piece by piece, we got some things, but nothing on a large scale or anything that is really going to form what the partnership or who the partners will be.
Right, I think that's going to be important, as you said, especially for the after-school programs and maybe before school, because you do have to, the hook, and as involved as I am with the Boys and Girls Clubs, things like that, maybe groups that can do that, and some of the larger ones. So.
Dawn was one of the first people to reach out to me when she heard about this. So Boys and Girls Club, through Dawn Stanhope, she's been in the loop for a couple of months now.
Good.
So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Reggie, do you have anything?
Yes, I was also at that meeting, and I liked the concept. I was a little concerned about the communication because some of the feedback that I received from the individuals from the community is that they didn't really understand what the meeting was for and the intent for the meeting. I strongly recommended that they reach out to either you or Ms. Saunders to have a better communication about the partnerships. As far as not just from the youth agency standpoint, but any other resources that will be needed. My concern is how that communication and how those steps are going to take place. I know we're using this as a launching pad, sort of, but I'm just interested to know what are the further steps that's going to take place in order for us to proceed with this great concept.
I'll speak for myself, not for the whole working group, but the the most recent conversation I had with the principal was that it would be a constant but not annoying flow of information to the families. Obviously, the school is where they're going to get the majority of their information from. You know, generally speaking, the families in that neighborhood are probably not watching a council of governments meeting.
Right.
They might catch some things in the newspaper or TV news, but we need to reach them directly at their school. And Commissioner Bellamy, it was noted that we need to do a much better job of reaching these families.
And just in respect to the Latino community, when the written information go out, can we please make sure
Always.
that information goes out?
Everything is in Spanish. About half of the population of the school is English language learners. So in most cases, the students are somewhat proficient, if not fully proficient, but a lot of times the parents at home are Spanish speaking. So not only is all the written communication in 2 languages, but if we hold an event at the school, and you both were at the event, we had a translator provided. So not only is in print is it bilingual, but anything delivered in a meeting format will be bilingual as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Anybody else have any comments? Seeing nobody, thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Very nice.
Commissioner Johnson, if I may, real quick, I just want to go over some impact numbers now that we're back. This is, you can see the drop in out-of-school suspensions. I know that was a big priority for the Children's Services Advisory Board this year. This is teacher retention. So you improve the teaching environment and teachers stay. This is some of the economic impact. As education outcomes increase, so does economic activity. And for local government folks, one of the positive metrics that has been measured is reduced police calls and reduced cost of policing the neighborhood in general. And this is my final slide. It's just some of the things I've covered, but I'll leave it at that. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Next up is the Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading. Not sure who's doing that presentation, Sherry or Cynthia or everybody.
When you come up here, you're going to want to bring your A game. Can everybody hear me okay? No. Nope. Okay. They're working on it. Okay. There we go. There we go. We brought our A game. So before I start, I'm Bronwyn Baytall. I'm the Manatee Area President for the United Way Suncoast. We're a 5-county United Way from Hillsborough, Pinellas to Manatee County, Sarasota, and DeSoto. And my role is right here in Manatee County. I brought my colleague Carolyn Griffin, who's our Director of Strategic Impact, and of course you know our County Administrator, Sherry Corrier, and our Superintendent, Cynthia Saunders. So it was Frederick Douglass who said that it's easier to grow strong children than repair broken men. And we're here today to talk about growing strong children. You heard a little bit about the Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading, and we're talking about today about the big plan, which is Manatee County's effort to address some of the challenges that our children face. The Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading is a national campaign. As Charlie said, we brought it to our community about 6 years ago, and it's focused on ensuring that our children read on grade level by the time they leave 3rd grade, because that's the transition from when children learn to read to when they read to learn. And if you're a 4th grader who's looking around and you can't read to learn, you begin to think about dropping out. You just don't define it that way. And we know that we can do better than that for our children. So the Suncoast Campaign focuses on 5 areas: school attendance, summer learning, school readiness, family engagement, and health determinants. And it is led by the Patterson Foundation as our regional accelerator, the United Way Suncoast, and the Community Foundation of Sarasota County. In Manatee County, we have a challenge. In 10 schools, in 3 neighborhoods, in the 17-18 school year, there were 989 3rd graders. 742 of those third graders did not test as reading on grade level. And if you look beyond the third grade, it's 2,570 students from kindergarten up through third grade. Using 2 prototype schools, we want to cut that number in half over the next year, and then continue to roll in 8 schools after that. The big plan is a collaborative effort to ensure that our children are reading on grade level by the time they leave third grade. I'm going to say that so many times that everybody can quote it when we leave this room. And it is a partnership, a true collaborative partnership with United Way Suncoast, our school district, our county government, Manatee Community Foundation, and our Early Learning Coalition. There are a number of other partners that are involved. These are what we call our lead partners, our advisory council here in Manatee County. The 10 schools are listed here, just for your reference, and the 2 schools where we're starting are Samoset and Palmview. And Carolyn will talk a little bit about how we got to those 2 and what we intend to do together with our community surrounding those 2 schools. But the difference between the big plan and other efforts that United Way has engaged in over the years is a strong, significant focus on results and localities. So we know that our children in these particular 10 schools, they may move between schools, but it's among these 10. So as we start this work, we're going to know that we can continue on with our children throughout the next few years. The results focus is making sure that as we progress, we're laser focused on getting results, as I mentioned, cutting in half the number of students who aren't reading on grade level. And in that 17-18 year, that was 75% of our students. So when we look at the county number and we say now, which by the way is a cause for celebration, that we're at 49% now that are reading on, 51% that are reading on grade level. It was 49% when we started. It may seem like a small progress, but that's pretty big for some of the intractable issues that our children face. But in these 10 schools, it's 75%. And we are going where our children need us the most. So I'm going to ask Carolyn to speak for a few minutes about our targets for those schools and how we got there and some of the activities that we anticipate taking place.
Thanks, Bronwyn. I want to start by just talking about the big plan very briefly. And I want you to feel as enthusiastic as I do about the big plan, because I really feel as if we're doing something different in our community. We are not swooping as a nonprofit to a principal and telling her, this is what we think would help you raise your grades. We asked the community. We held design sessions with our school principals, her APs, her reading coaches, her teachers, families. We even had students at one of the design sessions. And we asked them, we laid out the issue, and then we asked them, what can you do? This is not about pointing your finger at someone else. It's not the teacher's fault. It's not the parent's fault. The bottom line is 75% of our kids aren't reading on grade level. What are we going to do? And I'm really excited to be a part of that, and to me, that is the cornerstone of the work that we're doing. So to be specific, so we had 2 schools. We interviewed several principals to determine their interest in participating in this prototype. We selected 2, Palmview and Samoset. And keeping in the spirit of asking for their input, we asked them, what are your targets? How many children do you think you can get reading on grade level? And they provided that information to us. If you look at, go back one. Okay, so here are the targets that were set by Palmview and Samoset's principals. So if you're looking at the numbers, they selected the number of the number of children in grades K through 3. So if you're looking at the Palmview target, in the current year, there are 165 kids not reading on grade level, which is 23%. and their target is 50%. Those were targets that were set by the schools. I also might mention that if you look at the next slide, that gives you an overview of the kinds of interventions that are planned for those schools. Those interventions were ideas and commitments that came out of the design session for each school. We know that in order for children to read on grade level by the end of third grade, we can't begin at third grade. We can't even begin in kindergarten. We really need to begin, where would you think we need to start? In utero, but we're going to go with birth. We're going to go with birth. And so we divided the work that we're going to do in 3 broad categories: ages birth to 3, age 4 and 5, and then 6 to 9. And in our design sessions, we were given specific interventions that not only did the participants recommend, but we had participants commit to working with us on these areas. So from 0 to 3, we're going to be working with home visiting programs. We're trying to get as many books out to where people are so they don't have to travel to get a book. We want to build their home libraries. In the 4 to 5 age group, we will implement reading pals in our target schools. The principals asked across the board for in-classroom support. They wanted us to provide volunteers who would provide not only academic support for the children, but technical support for the teachers, and we plan to do that. And then, of course, the 6 to 9, that's when they're actually in our public schools. We'll be implementing a program called Learning Pals, where we are working one-on-one, volunteer with a student on fluency and comprehension exercises. I will leave my card on the table with the water, so if any one of you would like to volunteer with us, I'd love to have you. There are several different programs, several different time commitments, and that was unscripted, sorry. So we put that along. It's a good thing. Okay. So Sherry, would you talk about I'll leave Sherry to talk about the work her county has done with the big plan. Put you on the spot.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Well, what's the county doing involved in something like this? Obviously, we have a big interest in how this all works through the continuum. You see all ages that Carolyn and Bronwyn have mentioned, and it's our concern and interest that both economically the county prosper, but that we help our children. As you know, back in 1990, the Board of County Commissioners implemented the Children's Services Dedicated Millage, and we've spent funds towards Children's Services 0 to 17 for abused, abandoned, neglected, and at-risk children. And so this was a very important project to be in. It's exciting when you can partner instead of actually be the leader or be considered to be the leader when it's not your primary topic. So the county was very eager to get involved. I'd have to say that your past chair of the school board, Dr. Hopes, and our past chair of the county commission, Commissioner Trace, were really the implementers in getting the county on board, asking where could we fill the role. Since we're not able through the Children's Services tax to fund educational services that are in the jurisdiction of the school district and funded by the state, we were able to find a partnership. Where does our money fit? Where can we fit into the success of this? And so working with Dr. Saunders, we found out that the after-school extension part of an area that is also what's called a recap area for Manatee County, meaning it's a federally designated area that we're to be working on for families, and that's in the Samoset area and in the Pride Park area. So this year, we assisted with the portion that the school district couldn't fund, and that was the 2:30 to 6 p.m. time frame for children to stay at school. But instead of just staying at school, their primary work is on grade level reading. And so that's where the partnership came. We're really excited to see what the results are and hope that we can expand the program next year. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Saunders to talk more about the partnerships.
You know, I know Bronwyn indicated the 10 schools that we started with. And the reason it's so significant that we're focused on those 10 schools is they have the highest level of poverty. And in most cases, they have our highest concentration of ESOL students, or students that do not speak English as their primary language. So out of the gate, when they enter kindergarten, they're generally behind because of other circumstances. So our teachers are doing an amazing job day in, day out during the school day. It's just not enough. If you're behind, in order for them to catch up and be on grade level, we have to give some supplemental work. So that's where volunteers come in. That's where the partnerships come in. We have accumulated 775 volunteers that are now coming in and working with these institutions. But we need more. So let me tell you the programs that we've put into place that the community is doing with our grade level reading program. So this is how this partnership is working. They have 4 common areas that we're working on. Number 1 is pre-K. Did you know pre-K is really not funded in K-12 education? It's with the Early Learning Coalition. So most of our pre-K in our community are done outside of our school district. When we arrived right before the grade level reading campaign started, we only had 25 pre-K classes in the Manatee County School District. Today we have 100. And that's because it's a commitment with the board and the district to fund these classes. Because we know that if we can get them on board early, we have a greater chance of them reading on grade level by 3rd grade. So we've instituted with a community partner our SOAR in 4 program, where they're really coming in, and Steve Roskamp is one of our great benefactors that is committed to this, that we're working with parents, we're working with those students, and we're giving them a lot of activities so that they can help them with reading at home and giving them books and literacy. In addition, we have with Kiwanis a reading pal. So they're coming in and volunteering with our kindergarten or 1st grade through 3rd graders. And those groups are coming in those classrooms, in addition to their day-to-day instruction with teachers, they're volunteering and helping in those classes. We have United Way working with Reading Pals as well. So, and they're working with kindergarten. And then I know many of you in the room know of the Horns and their Dive into Reading initiative that we partnered and started with a few years ago for summer school. So these are the strategies and the new programs that we've brought into these schools on top of the day-to-day instruction, but the commitment of the volunteers is really what's going to move the needle. Just coming to school in a regular school year is not going to be enough. We've got to have volunteers helping, we've got to have extended days, and we've got to have summer learning. And we are so thankful that we live in a county that the community is committed to helping us with this endeavor. I thank you.
Thank you. This is a cause for celebration. The way our county is working together, the way these partnerships have come together, we take it for granted that this is happening across the United States. It is not in the same way. We have a wonderful effort with community partnership schools that's being born right here in Manatee County, of community with community, to make a huge difference for our children in the future. The big plan, in the way that we kind of can work together and are in parallel, is that we're creating the tactics and the strategies to ensure that the success of both of these efforts. So what a wonderful thing. Thank you all for coming together in this way. Does anybody have any questions? Especially while we have Superintendent Saunders and our county administrator with us. Great. Thank you.
Okay, next up is a quick update from Jacob on the 311 system.
Mr. Chairman, officials, good afternoon. My name is Jacob Sauer. I'm the Acting Director of Public Safety for Manatee County Government. Earlier, about 2 or 3 months ago, the media picked up on Mrs. Corrier's budget message, and in there was a 311 slotted. 311 was slotted in the budget. So we wanted to just come to you and update you on a mind shift and a culture shift within Manatee County that we're soon going to be switching to a 311 system. So what is 311? 311 is it's a collaboration between the Association of Public Safety Communication Officials and FCC that really sets out a second well-known number outside of 911 that allows citizens and visitors to a county or city to call with non-emergency questions, comments, and concerns. This 311 moniker really is just a number. There's many different ways that you can get into a 311 center. It's more like a call center for a city or government, but the 311 is the well-known moniker for a city or government setting up an information center. So currently today, there's 2 different ways that you can interact with the county government as a citizen or a visitor to Manatee County. There's the switchboard, which takes around 700 phone calls a day, and that is what's called a cold transfer. As soon as the switchboard receives the phone call and it is trying to figure out from the minute you start speaking where you need to be routed to, and as soon as they can pick that up, they send you off to one of the 12 different departments within the county government. And then secondly, if you have a question, a comment, or a concern, you can call into the county administration office through the Citizen Action Center. And some of you know Casey Ellis, who runs that center for us. She's going to be retiring soon, so we thought this was a good time to really change the culture and how you interact with the county government. So out of those 2 systems, we're really going to be combining both of those into a 311 call information center. I have 2 quick videos to show you that'll kind of give you the gist, and then I'll wrap this up real quickly.
Boy, it looks like you've been rode hard and put up wet. What? Ain't my fault you fell out the saddle. Well, maybe it is. Better hop on the wire and dial 311 so they can come and get me patched up. All right, partner? Could you pothole talking to you? Dial 311. Hey, 311? Yeah, I like those one pothole.
Okay, so that was a quick informational video that the city of Austin, Texas did. They have a real big problem with potholes, with the way the clay is in Texas and how those potholes are that form in Texas. They really wanted to get that message out. People complain about potholes all day in Austin. That's what they did for their 311 center. And then one more that kind of wraps up what a 311 really encompasses.
It's one of the most frequently called numbers in Windsor, the number for non-emergency services. In the first 10 years of service, 311 has logged more than 1.6 million contacts with residents.
Okay, I can look that up for you. Just a moment, please.
The working partnership between the frontline 311 operators and the numerous city departments which respond to the requests is key to the success of the service.
All right, you have a good day. Thank you.
311 is there to answer any of our customers' questions and provide information about our city. For example, if you want to get details about the latest construction project or change to garbage pickups or tax information, we can do that.
Okay, I just need to take some information. 311 is incredibly busy. Residents call about potholes, graffiti, bus schedules and routes, overgrown weeds, street signs, traffic signals, sidewalk and curb repairs, recreational programs, and tree trimming, just to name a few.
Hi, thank you for calling. Kevin speaking. How can I help you today? We have a great database that we use here at the call center. All the information we provide is researched and verified. We can provide customers with phone numbers or even transfer them to the direct department if needed.
311 is very accessible and gives you the ability to call, text, or email when you have questions or concerns about non-emergency city services. You can contact 311 and our customer service reps will answer your questions or take care of your service requests. You can even go online and enter your own service requests whenever it is convenient for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you happen to see any burrows in your property, If we don't have the information that you need, then we will research it and give you a call back or put in a work order so that way someone can get out and take a look at the problem you're having and then go from there.
And what address was that again? Windsor is one of the most ethnically diverse cities in Canada, so many of our customers are non-English speaking. In an effort to assist those residents, 311 telephone service is available in over 200 languages, thanks to our partnership with Language Line Services.
From garbage cans to potholes or sewer cleaning, 311 is your one-stop shopping center for all city services.
7150.
If you need information about city services, facilities, programs, or events occurring around Windsor, give us a call.
All right. Well, you have a great day. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
So that kind of gives you a broad overview of how Windsor does it, which brings me to a great point. The 311 moniker, a lot of our Canadian visitors, they already expect that. It's large in Canada today, in large metropolitan areas, even in the state of Florida, such as Orlando, and many others, Miami, they already have a 311 center. So as these visitors come in, they're used to trying to call 311 when they have comments or concerns for the county or the cities. As we build out this 311, there is some benefits, and the overall result we're trying to reach is better customer service for the citizens and the visitors of the county. It's one easy number to remember. The county has over 15 phone lines that you can dial into the county to talk to someone. And if you don't know what department that handles your issue, you could call through the Citizen Action Center. Most likely you're going to get the switchboard and transferred out to a different department who might not be the right one, or they might not be able to get to you as quickly as the caller might expect. So with this 311 service, there is, like I said, many ways to interact with 311 and the county government. That's through social media, a website, an application, and actually calling on the phone. And we're going to be setting that up shortly. And some of the things we're setting up to take and answer and handle through our 311 system are listed here. But it's basically what you really need to know is if you have an emergency, you dial 911. And anything else that you need to interact with the county, you can dial 311, and they're going to try and help you. The goal is a 90% in-house completion rate of that citizen's comments, concerns, complaints, or something that needs action. So there is going to be times that we have to transfer that call out. But in the 311 system, we're building a knowledge base with the 12 different departments, many of the municipalities that are here today, to try and get a resolution to their call within the 311 center itself. And many of those are listed, that animal removal, debris, potholes, graffiti, trash pickup, and so on. It also serves a second purpose, which is flexible operational support. And today in the 911 center, as a hurricane or a natural disaster is approaching, we set up the 911 center by bringing in all the 911 telecommunicators, and then we set up a CIC, Citizen Information Center. As that will continue, but it will run through the 311 center. So 911 will ramp up to take emergency calls, and the 311 center will switch from a 311 informational center to try and handle problems to the CIC, which will handle that disaster's information both going out and incoming for the citizens and visitors of the county. Here's our current timeline. I know this one is hard to see, and I would be not doing our staff any justice if I didn't mention them. They're all in the back there, from Nick Azera, Art Stadlin, our project manager, Casey Ellis, and Sherry Smith from the Commissioner's Office. They have been in the discovery phase for quite some time, a little less than a year, getting all the information that we need to know and need to get put forth for Mrs. Corrier on starting up this 311 system. We do plan on the beginning phases of a 311 system in October. However, building that knowledge base and transferring all of that information over to a 311 center and changing the mindset of a switchboard to actually in-house resolution of the citizen or visitor's comments is going to take quite some time. So we do anticipate it starting up in October. A full build out will probably be another year past that in 2021. Because of the many municipalities within Manatee County and how they interact with the county as well today, we invite all of the municipalities to learn more. I'm sure that your staff already works with KCLS quite frequently on calls that come into the county that we actually is handled by the cities within the county. Like I said, we've been in discovery mode for quite some time. We're about ready to start putting that into the implementation phase. And we're trying to get the best practices. We visited many cities, a couple counties within the area, and had many WebExes. And one of the things we learned is no one does it the same way. So we're kind of building it to tailor it to Manatee County's way. One thing that kind of overall stood out to me was when we visited the city of St. Petersburg, and Mayor Kreisman, his message about 311 is it's one call to City Hall. So that kind of sums up what the result of 311 we're trying to get to. So, like I said, the staff in the back, KCLS, I'm sure a lot of your staff, and you know Casey, Art Stadlin, our project manager, myself over at Public Safety, and even Sherry, we're all working on this project together. So if you need more information, by all means, please reach out and let us know. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I got one. It said Brown first. Same first name. Now, question you mentioned about with the cities, if someone calls in and calls I've been getting lately is animal control, raccoons and possums on the roof and all of that, you know, there's no city services for that. Is there county services? You know, obviously emergencies, we have our different operations, 911, but is that going to be something that the county will handle, or will they, oh, no, you live in the city, it's not going to happen unless we do something?
As far as, are we talking about animal control?
Well, I'm just saying that would be, for example, something like that, you know, right now.
So even today, the county takes calls that the city might handle, potholes within the city. I'm just giving out an example. And the city vice versa takes calls that the county might handle. Part of the customer resource management system we're looking at for this 311 is going to give the cities an ability to interact with that. So today they're transferring calls back or sending emails back and forth. We're hoping to include and bring in more of the cities with part of that CRM system. So it may not be a phone call, what it looks like in the future, but definitely the lines of communication will stay open.
But, you know, potholes, we have different crews or different ways to do it. And there's going to be a lot of services that way, police and fire, different things might be non-emergency, but certain services the cities just don't have.
Right, so through that CRM system, they could put in a ticket, the city that took the call could put in a ticket for the county that actually handles that to go out there. And one thing I didn't mention in this is through the 311 system, it's going to allow us a better dashboard or overview of what we're actually taking in and the problems the counties and cities handle if the counties are onto this system. But what it does is it also gives the caller or the person with the concern a resolution. So if they wanted to, we would follow up with them. Hey, this pothole's been filled, or that loose dog you reported at Manatee and 75th was caught, and we now have it at Animal Services, stuff like that.
But it depends what corner they're on Manatee and 75th.
True.
Who gets it. So
and you'll be dealing with that a little bit later.
Number 7, so.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you.
Well, I'm not too sure that it hasn't been answered, but I'm looking at a different direction. With the 311 and somebody calls it, are you going to be able to ping their cell phones and know where they're at?
No, sir.
So it's going to be typical 911 situation where if somebody in the city of Palmetto or city of Bradenton dials 911, you got to go through a bunch of ooh la la to make them understand I want the city of Bradenton or the city of Palmetto.
No, sir. Through the protocols, we determine that, but we will not get call location on a non-emergency phone line.
So they will tell you they live in the city and on 17th Avenue and 26th Street, there's a cave-in and how are you going to communicate with the city on that? Is there something the city has set up?
Well, so in the discovery phase, and part of that is through KCLS, she already has that set up with the city of Bradenton today. It might look different in the future with a CRM software system that we can still put it in just as normal, and it will go to an email address to whoever wants to receive that information for the city.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Funding, who's gonna handle the funding on it, records retention, and things like that?
So the software system for 311 is in the cloud, and that's handled by Microsoft or whatever vendor we use. It's all in the cloud. It is Sunshine Law applicable. The funding, we currently have a switchboard fund, and we currently have a Citizen Action Center fund. We're combining those together with more funding in Ms. Corrier's next budget that will allow the 311 system to up and run.
And how will that work with municipalities? Where will they get their funding from? Through the 911 or?
So currently, the municipalities aren't coming into the 311 system. The county's still learning the system itself. What I think my message meant was, what we're going to do is, in the future with our software system, work with the cities to maybe get them on board with our software. We can have extra licenses. Many counties that set up a 311 system give out extra licenses for the city. So if they don't want a phone call, we can continue entering in information, and it will shoot an email off to whoever needs to get that information for the municipalities.
Thank you.
Don't see anybody else. Thank you, Jake.
Yes.
Let's see if we can get through Steve's presentation quickly before we move along. Steve, oh, there he is.
Good afternoon, distinguished audience. My name's Steve Lachar with Emergency Management, and I just wanted to give you all a real quick update on what we call the policy group within the Emergency Operations Center. This has been in effect for a long, long time. We're just trying to refine it, make it work better, get it flowing better. This slide just points out that what's being discovered is what's happening on the major storms these days, or they're going from a good summer storm like we've seen the past week to a major hurricane in 3 days. So if we don't have our information planning and various things set now, it's going to be too late for those storms coming around. So what we, in the Emergency Operations Center, we operate on a 3-level basis. Every day we're in a level 3, we're monitoring the situation. A lot of you will get emails from me periodically about what's out in the Atlantic or the Gulf or whatever. Level 2 is something that comes up that maybe would be staffed by, let's say maybe law enforcement, fire, and public works. Not everybody, and then a full activation is what I call everybody in the world, public works, utilities, the list goes on. So we have a level of activation. But what we want to do is make sure we have the right people in control setting the policies and have the right people in that room and so forth. So this slide's real hard to read. This is just the organizational chart. At the very top is the policy group. And it does what it's called. It sets the policy where we in the Emergency Operations Center sends out the marching orders. But we have to have the right people with the right authority and the right knowledge to set that policy. So in this group, it's laid out, and this is where we need y'all's help to get the right people in the room. And as I go down through it real quick, as a county administrator, the chairperson of the county commission, county attorney for legal issues. This is chaired by the public safety director, chief emergency management, liaison from the school board, liaison from the Fire Chiefs Association, the sheriff's office, the health department, as it's titled here, the chief administrator or elected official of the community. And we have that worded and looking in the room as i.e. like Longboat having a town manager versus Palmetto or Braden having a mayor. That doesn't say you as the mayor, the town manager is the person that's going to sit there, but it's your position and you name who's going to be there. And that's what we want to make sure we have the right person in there. If you designate someone to come in your spot, they have to have the authority to speak on your behalf, whether it's the city, whether it's the fire service, whether it's the school board or what. And the thing to keep in mind is very shortly, we've been working on this with county administration, the public safety director. If you haven't already, you will be getting an email out shortly of identifying who this person is or these people. keep in mind, we would rather have 2 or 3 from each jurisdiction or each of these components, because you can't live there 24 hours a day, and you take a trip, or you're here, or you're there. So when you get this, we're looking at least 2 deep, but it's gonna be your decision who you appoint. But what I wanna make sure y'all understand is, we're providing you a seat for your component. Please be there, and also have the right person that can speak in the behalf of your organization. This is very hard to read. We know it, but this just lists out the various cities and who I just identified in this group. Again, the policy group is chaired by the public safety director. And in this group, it provides the direction and authority in decision-making, what we do during a disaster, assists in policy, legal issues, safety, environmental issues, resource requests, assists in other related things. Things I'm talking about: when are we going to evacuate? What time is the curfew? What is the spending level? Are we doing things within the right realm of the statute? So this is all important stuff, but we as boots on the ground, whether emergency management, the fire service, law enforcement, public works, and the list goes on, if we don't have those clear, defined directions from y'all, we cannot do what we need to do too. And I go back to the right people in the room at the right time. There is a current ordinance. The last time it was reviewed was in 2005. That ordinance is being tweaked a little bit. It's in hands of legal being reviewed. We're just looking at just some verbiage, a little bit of change of wording, but nothing drastic. There already is an ordinance in place. And on a state of local emergency, it talks about lawful orders and so forth, but the very bottom line here is to just my entire presentation. Our intent is for the policy group to be involved in the decision-making prior to us taking action, not after the fact. That's why we need you to have the right person in the room at the time, where we can do the best decision for the community as a whole, not a single jurisdiction, not a single agency. So we want to get y'all's involvement. We need your input, but it's having the right person. So what you can expect coming up here real shortly, if you haven't gotten it already, coming from the county attorney's office, is the email asking you for information. Who is going to be your designee from the fire service to the cities, to the town, to the school board, et cetera. Update that information to provide designee. Respond to notifications. What we will then do is build in notification trees to send out, pass on information, and most important of all of this is attend the policy group meetings, trying to be very politically correct. You have a seat there. If you're not there, you can't complain if something was done if you're not there, and that's the big thing we need to try to have is you have a seat there, please have a representative there. So that's real quick, so I'll leave it up to questions. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Whitmore.
I've been on the islands in politics for 16 years, and what I think there's a lot of new elected officials here too, and also in the cities, and I hope you convey this to your newer elected officials. Once the county declares, and I wanted you to confirm it, once the county declares an emergency, then actually Steve is the designated person in charge, correct?
It's
After
actually
the policy group.
the public safety director.
Which is
and I'm-
Jake.
Correct,
Jake is-
correct,
okay,
right.
Jake, sorry, okay. And I want to give 2 examples, because when I was a city commissioner, Mayor Van Wagner in Holmes Beach, a hurricane was coming, and he decided that he was closing the bridge. Well, at that point, the public safety director was Karen Wyndham. She was in charge. It had already been declared. So actually, we had the county had to come out and tell him he couldn't do that. And then as mayor, Mayor Sue Lynn in Anna Maria at another hurricane, you remember that one.
Oh, yes,
she
I do.
decided to close the streets in Anna Maria because she decided she didn't want anybody out there looking around. You can't do that. We all have to make sure that our elected officials in the cities know that once this is declared, the powers go to the public safety director and the policy group. So I just want to make sure that's clear. I've been through it twice. It was a major disaster, and it was an embarrassment to everybody because it was all over town. And I just want to make sure that all the new commissioners and all the new elected officials are aware that once that's declared, we have an agreement with, the cities have an agreement with the counties, and that's just how it's done. And they are great at keeping in contact with us during a disaster. We get these blasts all the time, so they keep us informed. But it's really the policy group and the public safety director that take over during a disaster. And I just want that clarified if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions or input? Okay.
Thank you very much, Steve. Keep up the good work. Gene Gallo on the Palmasola.
If I may, I'd like to just speak from here since I don't have any presentations. Basically going to be to funnel some information to the county commissioners and the county administrator. The Palmasola boat launch on the causeway quite obviously is in my ward, so the problems that we've had over the years, I'm receiving all the calls. Just a little bit of history. When the first launch was built, we had an interlocal agreement with the county that when the launch was completed, the county would take it to maintain it and et cetera. Well, unfortunately, the company that we hired to build that, they must have been in the air conditioning business because I don't think they knew a thing about, kind of like what happened to Wears Creek. It just didn't turn out well, and the county quite obviously did not want to take control of it, and I don't blame them. We're now in an interlocal agreement with you, which I'm very appreciative of. But what I'd like to tell you all, and hopefully you relay this to the individuals that will probably be involved with it, and I see one of them back there, where the launch is located is 100% wrong in that location. And the reason why, it's in an alcove, and if you go out there and stand, when the wind blows or the tide moves, you can basically see the sand coming in. So that was one of the complaints that the boaters that came to me with what we have, is they can't get in there because of the sand that there's a buildup. And I would like to see the county move that to the eastern part of the parking lot and even consider maybe digging dredging, I should say, a small channel coming in there. Because if we're going to do it, we need to do it right. And I just wanted to be an information person for you because, like I say, I'm an avid fisherman. I fish all over the state. I'm smart enough to do all freshwater fishing, so I'm not involved in what goes on at the causeway. But and I've seen some great places to launch. I mean, the city of Winter Haven has a paved parking lot that you can probably park 60 to 80 vehicles, and you can launch 10 boats at a time in there. And we hurt Manatee County for boat launches. We have a tremendous amount of boaters. I went by 59th Street on the 4th of July, and it was unbelievable where all those vehicles were parked on both sides of Riverview Boulevard, beyond the posts that you all have where they're not supposed to get off the road. They were there, and I didn't even try to make it out to Kingfish. So, but anyway, that's what I wanted to do today, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope if anybody has any questions or discussion, that I've been in discussion with our Public Works Director, and he totally agrees with what I've said today about the location of that. And thank you.
You know, like I say, you know, because it's my district as well. Thank God they call you more than me. So but I get the ones from the other side of the road. But I will tell you that we are looking at it, and, we are trying to figure out how to get the funding to move that thing farther east and do it right, because you're right, that little alcove there. And like you say, I don't think that guy, whoever built it for you, would qualify even as an air conditioner, because it's a bad thing and it's shut down. But I know we're working on it, with the administration, and we'll, certainly get back with you on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
And just to get clarification, so the county took over the boat ramp, but we're not doing anything yet. There's been no design, no money put forward to fix this. I thought that was the track we were on, but I could be wrong.
As the county administrator stated, we're going to be. No, that one's not working.
Oh, it's not working.
Find a different mic, please.
Want to use Steve's mic?
Use mine, Charlie, come on.
That's right, that's right.
Keep moving.
I would. As the county administrator stated, we will be providing a comprehensive report on August 13th. We are conducting immediate repairs to the dock to provide at least a safe load and retrieval of boats. But you're absolutely correct. There's longshore drift there of sand that's tremendous. Our only constraint to re-engineering the site, to acknowledge that, is extensive seagrass directly to the east of that launch site. And as we know, seagrass mitigation, as the city of Bradenton Beach found out, is a very expensive proposition when you're dealing with boat ramp development. So it may be cost prohibitive, but we will certainly give all that assessment to go. But our first order of business is to lower all the docks to meet accessibility requirements and then reopen the site to what we have. Seagrass, believe me.
Any other comments? If not, okay. Carol, on Palmasola water quality?
And just so you know, Jean, that we're going to be doing Kingfish Boat Ramp, which we just got BP monies switched for, which is like $4.5 million. That's like an emergency almost, and I think that's why they're trying to get the Palmasola opened up sooner than later. And another aside, you talked about 4th of July. 4th of July weekend, I brought this up at the last commission meeting. Holmes Beach, even though I posed it, has a camera for your license plates. And they recorded 234,000 cars just on Manatee Avenue Bridge. So those boats and everywhere else, that was just for the 3-day weekend. So that's almost 100,000 shy of our entire population in Manatee County. So anyway, maybe it was closer to like, it was closer to maybe 270, something like that. Because anyway, it was, when we say that it's rough on the island, we actually have the data to prove it now, and those boats were part of it too. Okay, the reason why I asked I'm going to talk about the potential water quality issues that we have in Palmasola Bay. I have been an Anna Maria Island resident for 50 years, so I've driven that 2 or 3, 5, 6 times a day that entire time. And the causeway has closed off and on for years. Everybody's flipping out now because they were wondering why the causeway was closed last week for about a week. That's happened as long as I can remember. The health department has. But we do have water quality issues. And what I've never been able to get a true answer for, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, we have some projects that we are going to be bringing up to the state, possibly get funded for pilot projects for water quality. I'm sure you've read about it, the oyster program and the clam program, and I know Bradenton Beach is doing something, and the others. We actually have a group of people that I met with over the summer that are all working together, and we may be bringing this up to the county commission to see if we can approach the state to get some seed money to start this. These pilot programs would filter our water, our runoff. It's seed money to start. It would be up our rivers as well as along our shorelines in Sarasota Bay, which is what we need them. And also, I'm looking at the issues that we've always had in Palmasola, and you all know that. It's like a bowl. I mean, actually, I didn't know there was 2 ways that the north side of the Palmasola Bay drains out. It goes under the bridge out, that way, but there is a 150-foot channel that goes into, that we put in when we put Robinson Preserve, but obviously it's not enough. My question is I don't, and Carl sent me an email, I appreciate it. I don't really know who has jurisdiction over what. The Manatee County does the bathrooms, and now we have the boat ramp, and yet also Harbor Isles, annexed into the city of Bradenton. And I really would like to know what the jurisdiction is on the causeway. And then I'd like us all to work together on ways to improve water quality. It's just not we've had dogs there for years. It's the horses, it's everything. We have charter captains that go pick up citizens on the boat to go out fishing for the day, and where do they tell their people to go to the bathroom? So we're all part of the problem. Also, I don't know what drains into Palmasola Bay. I don't know if any of us have permits to discharge anything. I know we have accidents, and that's unforetold. You know, we can't project that. But do we have permits? Where does the water drain from into the Palmasola? So this is something I think, you know, that it's time. There is no drainage system on the causeway, as you know. FDOT doesn't have one. They own the road. It's state. I just don't know, again, whose jurisdiction is what and how we can all work together to maybe have the cities or the city join the county and approaching the state to try to kind of do something like we're talking about up the river and along Sarasota Bay. Maybe that would be part of it. I think our legislators like it when we all work together. I think it's time for these kind of issues because we're all getting it. I get slammed on social media, emails, but mainly social media. And I don't know if you all are, some people are nodding their heads. It's really rough out there, and they think it's all our fault. And I don't know whose fault it is. I don't know whose jurisdiction. I don't really know what we are doing in Palmasola Bay. So this is not something I think we can answer today, but I think the county and the city staff and the attorneys may know whose jurisdiction is what. I know the water is the state, but who has the responsibility of that kind of stuff? You know, can we do the oyster project or the clam? So I think Charlie's gonna, or Sherry's gonna comment in.
Just gonna mention, we do have some information.
Can't hear ya.
We're gonna ask Charlie to go over some information. If he can't hear here, he's gonna have to move down there.
Gonna have to get up.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
We're live.
We did some research
Yes.
today.
Oh, good.
An issue came up in August of 2011 relative to the horseback riding on the causeway. And we're only quoting from the Herald Tribune article that was written at that time. And Councilman Gallo, you're active in that article. You may remember. I bet you read. Well, I can defer if you'd like. For instance,
I can just tell you what I've always been told, and the information we received from the state, that when the city of Bradenton annexed that causeway, we annexed the DOT right-of-way. So my understanding from when we first hit the causeway to where the boat launch is, that far, that the FDOT right-of-way is 250 foot from Center Road to both sides.
500.
500, I'm sorry. And
on each side?
So, but
500?
after you get past that, it's just a normal right-of-way.
Yes, it becomes 200 feet. It goes through the Flamingo Cay development that was constructed after the causeway was constructed. The right-of-way narrows to 100 feet either side for a 200-foot total width. It's a 1,000-foot total width through the causeway itself. And then it expands back to 500 feet at Perico Bayou, and then narrows down significantly past that on the way out to Sarasota Bay. The distance here is it's 75 feet on either side. So we've got a 500-foot right-of-way that narrows to 100, pops back up to 500 again as it passes over waters of the state, then narrows down again to 150 feet of right-of-way out to Sarasota Bay. Yes, sir.
So that's great, but who owns what and what? We're doing the bathrooms and we're doing the boat ramp, and who's looking at the water quality in there, that we all could work together maybe to improve it, because it's not maybe one jurisdiction, we all could work together.
Of course. The answer clearly, though, is the state of Florida does own its own right-of-way there and establishes permit jurisdiction and lease jurisdiction. For instance, City of Bradenton received a lease to construct the boat ramp initially, and that lease was transferred to Manatee County in May of 2018. May of 2019. But we lease from the owner, which is the state of Florida, and so then as it relates to permits within the city's jurisdiction, clearly along the causeway, along its entire length, it's city decisions, but it's also subject to FDOT review and approval, since they own the land and operate their roadway and improvements along it.
Does Manatee County or the city of Bradenton have permits to discharge? I mean, this would be good for all of us to know, because we all get hammered like along in Palmasola Bay, but also along Sarasota Bay, because Bradenton has a great wastewater. They have advanced wastewater treatment system. We do it differently. We do reuse and deep well, and we don't have permits to go into the bay.
Well, that's correct. You remember, the city of Bradenton and Manatee County both share in this permit burden. The National Discharge Pollution Elimination System, I said that wrong, but the federal permit for stormwater management rests with the city of Bradenton and its jurisdiction, and it rests with Manatee County and its jurisdiction, covering the islands and Manatee County proper. So when we think about whether or not there's a permitted discharge into Palmasola Bay, truly there is one. It's from a various number of point sources. A Cedar Hammock Canal comes through there, emptying into the Port of Sweno Park.
Oh.
There are stormwater flowages that pass behind King Middle School and come into the northern part.
Mhm.
And then there are many discharge points around the circumference of Palmasola Bay that come from our urban areas. We're responsible ultimately for the water quality of Palmasola Bay from those discharges. At the moment, we are not in a compliance issue. We are in compliance. Let me state that positively. But our mission continues. We're going to be looking, as you know, to a stormwater utility work session where water quality issues will continue to be discussed and as part of the effort through that utility if it is adopted. And likewise with the city of Bradenton, who has done a very excellent job, I might add. Thank you for the work you've done to continue to protect the water quality of Wares Creek. I think that was a personal stake in that, and that's been marvelous. But we too accept that responsibility around the Palmasola Bay area with careful examination of stormwater treatment, runoff from roads. Our fertilizer ordinance has directly helped maintain the quality that we have. We have not seen the degradation of water quality despite population increase in this area, and we attribute that in part to an effective fertilizer ordinance and restriction during the summer rainy season.
But it's still, maybe the staffs need together. Who owns it? Like, does Manatee County own any of along Palmasola on Manatee Avenue? Do we own any of that?
No, we do not.
So, I always thought we did because we had the bathrooms, but I guess we have a lease with the state for the bathrooms?
Yes, we do.
So we don't own it. So really, Bradenton does, and then the state, correct?
Well, let me say it again. The state of Florida owns the property.
Right. And then
The city has asserted its legal jurisdiction over state property.
I got you.
Manatee County operates a small recreation facility on the north side of the causeway within the city of Bradenton, and it's the county's responsibility to take care of its own, including the bathroom and the docks and the parking spaces that occur at that specific postage stamp spot on the northwest corner of Palmasola.
And I just want us to all work together and figure out a way if there's a way that we can do a better flushing method in Palmasola Bay, because I hear it only circulates like every 22 days because it's like a bowl, and it doesn't go out that fast like we see along Sarasota Bay. Anything, I mean, I think you all get it too. I think we all need to work together on this, and I don't know how the board feels, but we can all talk about this at a meeting, but I would love to work with the city of Bradenton and the state to work on ways to improve the water quality along Palmasola Bay, and that's all. Thank you.
You might see that we're going to have a oyster demonstration project coming up in a month or two. Public participation is going to be out there with volunteers to help us. It's going to be in the area immediately east of the former Palmasola Little Causeway Bridge, going back to Robinson. That was part of the old roadway system there. There's a very active tidal area there that will support oysters. We intend to introduce many more at oyster shell. And with that, expect to see a water quality improvement through the water column by the good work that oysters do 24/7.
Okay, Betsy?
So is Palmasola Bay an outstanding Florida water?
I'm not sure. I don't Nodding yes, it
Damon's
is,
nodding yes.
because of its connection to Sarasota
Who
Bay.
gives permission for horses to be in Palmasola Bay?
State,
No. Oh, they do?
He's correct.
when we tried to stop it, FDOT told us that a horse is defined as a vehicle, and they have the right on DOT right away.
You are kidding.
No, that's exactly.
You're kidding.
Well,
What about pooping in the water?
you know, I don't know how long ago
Well,
that was, but
they
I'd like
answered
to-
that too. They said if you watch what a horse eats when he poops in the water, it just,
Hay.
you see hay float away.
Oh.
But the new thing that they are talking about, a group, is the damage that the horses are doing to the seagrass. And maybe that might be
That's a good
some
point.
help to us, I'm not sure.
That's a good point.
It might be worth it to get just a legal opinion on that they still have the right to, and actually, do they permit it? Do they do anything?
If I can quote from the article of August 20th, 2011, city leaders pulled back the idea last week in 2011 when the city attorney advised that Bradenton cannot ban horseback riding there because Florida DOT owns the land.
But I mean, I would just like to ask whether or not Florida DOT actually issues a permit or looks at the environmental impacts on the resource.
Seagrass.
And do they actually permit horses, or are horses considered, like you said, a vehicle, so they're just allowed in the right of way?
Right.
That's one hand and left hand, right hand, because Department of Environmental Protection, not the Department of Transportation, will regulate the water issues, and the seagrass will be an angle and point of entry. As it affects horses, it will also affect boaters.
Yeah,
with
I
our boat
mean,
ramp
we don't
expansion.
allow cars to drive into the water, and, for good reason. I'm not sure why we allow horses just to go in the water. That's a question. I'm sure that I'll get a lot of pushback for that, but that's the way I feel.
We're trying to follow the media reports as well. Pinellas County, I believe, is becoming more active in this field of regulation and possibly coordinating with Department of Environmental Protection themselves to address this on the Pinellas side of the Sunshine Skyway.
Okay. It'd just be nice to know whether or not they actually, in fact, do look at any environmental impact.
Jonathan?
On the state of the flow of the water in the head of Palmasola Bay, FDOT did a thing on upper Tampa Bay in the Hillsborough area where
Yes, they
they,
did.
I guess it's on Gandy, is it?
Yes.
And they helped it flush.
Yes.
So if there's a way that they could help us with the flushing of that
Yes,
northern
well,
part.
Anecdotal was the design of the causeway was to include two cuts.
Yes.
And the state did not have the money to support it, so they decided to send it on one center cut rather than two on each end. And that has had a detrimental effect to circulation on the north side of the causeway.
But I meant now that the state is looking at water quality and looking at, to help, maybe we can get them to help fund one of them, to help water quality.
Yeah. Or for our purposes, help us to fund preventive measures and treatment measures in the watersheds to Palmasola Bay.
Correct. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing nobody else, we'll move on to our last item, panhandling. Not sure who wants to kick this off. But I guess this is, as we know, came up at our county commission meeting. I think Misty may have put it on the agenda at that point. I know we have a lot of people here from the public. We might prefer to hear from them first and then, try to respond or hear their concerns. But whatever the pleasure of this group is, I'm fine with that. Betsy?
One of the reasons why, and maybe it was Vanessa that actually put this on the agenda, I don't know, it was you, Misty. I mean, we knew that the city was looking at this issue too and talking about it, and I'd just like to hear from the city folks, kind of where they are at this point. This is our time to hear that as a group, so I would like to hear if the city has taken any action, and I'm sure we will hear from the public, but we've all gotten some emails. We got one from Jeff Steinschneider that had a ordinance that was adopted in Pasco County. I know that was passed on to Nikki, our county attorney, to look at. We all know that there's been an ordinance in Orlando that has been passed, I think it's Orlando, right? That's been passed on to us to look at possibly how that might, Daytona? Is it Daytona? I was just, when I said Orlando, that didn't make sense. Daytona, I've been asked personally by people to look at adopting that. I don't know enough about it. It seems like since we're both dealing with the same issue, we might want to hear if you guys have had any, and I say you guys being the city of Bradenton primarily, I don't know where the city of Palmetto is at all on it, whether or not you've made any decisions.
We haven't, but what we've asked is to ask our attorneys to get with your attorney and look at whatever's out there that we might take advantage of. I know that our expectation is that it's going to be problematic to get something that can stop it because it's under a First Amendment U.S. Constitution right, free speech. So we're looking at it. We don't have an answer. We'd like to have an answer for that. I only passed 3 people panhandling as I came to this meeting. Our police officers are moving to move them off the medians in any jurisdiction we have, and we'd love the county to ask the sheriff if he might do the same thing. But we know we can't move them off a sidewalk, but we can take them off the medians. So that's essentially where we are. We have conversations. We're looking for a legal opinion on what opportunities there are for it. We've had suggestions, everything from putting signs up to say, get off the median, or putting signs up to tell people don't give these folks money. I know the one fellow we had trying to give a guy a job and he wouldn't take that job, but there's another person out there on that same intersection at 75th who pulls his car in and parks there by Walmart, gets his bicycle out and rides up to where he panhandles. So, these guys are good actors. So, problematic. It's a free speech issue. It becomes very difficult for our attorneys to tell us what we ought to do in this case. We can, probably the closest thing we can get is you can do whatever ordinance you want to do, but it's probably going to go to court. And then we decide whether we do that or whether we pay the court. So that's, in a nutshell, that's where we are.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear from the county attorney if that, I know he said that he anticipated on the Daytona Beach ordinance that would be challenged because it was relatively new, and I don't know whether he's had a chance to look at the Pasco at all or not.
Mr. Chair, is it my turn?
Sure.
Am I on?
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, the lawyers met yesterday in my office. We met with Mr. Rudisil and one of his colleagues. I would anticipate that there will probably be some future meetings as well as this process unfolds. As of this moment, my office is operating under a 60-day assignment recently received from the Board of County Commissioners to thoroughly research these issues and report back the results of our research and what options might be available. We're in the midst of that 60, I think we're probably 1 to 2 weeks into that 60-day period right now. So my office is dutifully working on the matter. We are examining ordinances from all around the country, frankly. And we are looking at case law. There's some rich case law out there in this subject area. And so it is, it's not an easy task, but we are looking at some options. I think we identified a couple of decent options yesterday in our potential options in our discussion as between the lawyers. So so that's where we stand right now. We're dutifully working on doing the research and reporting back to the Board of County Commissioners with some potential options.
And will you be coordinating that work with the City of Bradenton's attorney, I assume, with Scott?
That would be the plan.
Yeah.
That would be the plan, yes.
I would hope so.
I guess I need to be on
I was just going to say, our commission hasn't brought this up as a topic to give direction to our attorney, but certainly we would be more than happy to work with the other agencies and see if we could move something forward collectively. So we'd be happy to participate in that as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Mr. Brown?
Thank you. Yes, it did come up, and obviously the culmination of it was through Ryan Bray, who got all the press on it, with offering the gentleman $15 an hour, and he wouldn't take it to work. One of the things that, and it's been going on, and I brought it up many times in our council meetings, is, they're getting very aggressive. And what I think that we need to do, and it's easy for maybe the city of Bradenton to do it at a smaller scale, because we are about 1/8 of what you are as a county, and we can move them off 3 corners, but they know that they go to that 4th corner, which is the county, and snub their nose and keep working at it. And one of the things that we need to do is just enforce the laws that we can, but we've got to do that together. And that's where I think the biggest part of it is missing, is, whether it's 3 county corners and 1 city corner or vice versa, it's just about enforcing that. And that's what I've heard mostly from the citizens. And it's not the homeless. It's the panhandlers that are getting aggressive, exposing themselves on the roadways in the median. And, they are very smart because they know where to go where there's no pressure on them. In the city, I was about a year ago, we were on Cortez Road, turned onto 14th Street, 41, see a guy with his bike laying there. About an hour later, we came back and went to Lowe's, and he was putting his bike in his brand new F-150, driving off. So, those type of things are happening. And the citizens that are criticizing us for bringing this up got to realize it's not the homeless that we're picking on. We have a lot of homeless services. We've got to let those services work and donate the money to them, but it's the panhandlers that are going to affect our economy if we don't get it under control. And that's the thing that we have to work together. And that's what I'm hearing a lot from our citizens. We got several of them out here, so I assume we're going to let them talk and, to say, because we've got to keep pushing forward, but we've got to do it together. Thank you.
Okay, Misty?
Yes, thank you, and I'm really encouraged that everyone is working together on this topic. I just wanted to draw attention to the ordinance that we received from Pasco County. There was a memo attached to that ordinance as well, and what it says is that Pasco County modeled their regulations from the Hillsborough County and the City of St. Pete's ordinances, and it says both jurisdictions have successfully defended similar bans in court. So it sounds like that's a really good place to start as far as looking for something legally defensible. Thank you.
Carol?
Just real quick, I'm almost positive, I know the islands have it. There's an interlocal agreement between jurisdictions, so they can cross into your city. So, I've heard people say, well, it's in the other jurisdiction. Well, there's an interlocal agreement between the sheriff and the city and all the cities. So to say that, if the city of Bradenton sees on 3 corners they own it, and they see somebody go to the Manatee County side, there's an interlocal agreement, they can still enforce it, I think. And I think I need to have the cities check with the attorneys, I'm almost positive. You don't have an interlocal between the sheriff
It's the other way around. You can come into the city, but we ultimately can't go into the county.
So Carl's saying it's opposite. Well, maybe our attorneys need to look at that. We need to talk about it, because that may help the problem too. Okay. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, at this point, we'll open it up to public comment. Those that would like to come up, I think you need to go to the front podium. So just if everyone just line up, I know there's, I think, several people here, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you all for being patient as we got through our other agenda items, but we needed to get that out of the way.
Good afternoon, officials, staff, and guests. My name's Frank McAndrews. I live in the city of Bradenton. Before I read what I wrote here, let me say, Mr. Poston, that your characterization of them being bad actors.
I said they were good actors.
Okay. I stand corrected. Your sarcasm is not appreciated. Mr. Brown, let me point out that one individual driving a new F-100 or 150 it doesn't define the problem. Firstly, aggressive behavior by any person on our streets for any reason is totally unacceptable. In such instances, 911 should be called immediately. In my experience, I have never encountered inappropriate behavior by anyone engaging in asking for assistance. Let me express strongly, I'm concerned about the direction that this topic is taking among some in our community. I, for one, wish no one had to resort to such a public display of neediness. So why are people engaging in this behavior? From my long experience, I know of individuals using this method to acquire items that help make their lives a little more comfortable. For example, an individual using money that they've gained from soliciting to repair a bicycle, which often is that person's only means of transportation. Another homeless person who told me she needed money to obtain a certain antibiotic cream that couldn't be supplied by our free medical clinic. Another who needed to buy certain personal hygiene items that aren't supplied by our clinics and churches. I could repeat many such examples of our neighbors, which is what they are. They're our neighbors, seeking a minimal level of comfort in their lives. Of course, we know people solicit funds for cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, and often in our quick judgment, we may believe this is unacceptable. We judge that they appear perfectly able to work, say at a $15 an hour job. They appear to be just lazy or scamming the system. Unfortunately, our society often makes our judgments on such outward appearances of the person. In my experience, individuals living this problematic lifestyle do so for very real and profound reasons. As we know, many are suffering from severe emotional, physical, and mental disabilities. And these reasons are not evident by their personal appearance. These disability issues are often cumulatively combined so as to present a lifestyle that is problematic. It's long been recognized that such illnesses cause many to self-medicate in an effort to ameliorate a constant, overwhelming, and painful lifelong disability. Unfortunately, these conditions are so severe that they often compromise one's ability to accept therapeutic interventions. It's not enough to say that we are a compassionate community.
I think your 3 minutes are up, sir.
Could I have 10 seconds more?
Sure.
It's not enough to say we have plenty of free help out there. Obviously, our efforts aren't working. I respectfully ask our government leaders to immediately initiate an aggressive and humane program such as done in Sarasota. Currently, we need to know what specific programs exist. My search of Turning Points and Centerstone does not show they have an aggressive program. So I suggest an aggressive program to address this issue. In the meantime, I'll close with this. I encourage everyone to continue giving their support to neighbors in need until that aggressive approach is initiated. In closing, let it be known that there is a widespread support in our community for aggressive and humane approach to this serious problem. And I ask our government leaders to start such a program as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Whoever's, Mike, if you would like to go next, please state your name for the record. And again, as you know, 3 minutes.
Mike Meehan, citizen, Manatee County. It's a different topic totally, really related to pedestrian safety, citizen safety on 26th between Manatee and Cortez. You know, I would really like, since we have City of Bradenton here in Manatee County, it's kind of a split geographically between those two entities. But I would really like to see some bike lanes and some sidewalks, continuous sidewalks between Manatee Avenue and Cortez. I think anybody that's driven to Home Depot, which I do all the time, knows what the problem is. Many parts of that roadway, well, there's really no bike lanes, and in a lot of the situation there's no sidewalk. So it's a major street. I think it's a pedestrian. I'd like to see City of Bradenton and Manatee County maybe get together and try to figure out if we can put a sidewalk on one of our major streets, a continuous sidewalk. Same thing with Riverview Boulevard, which I also traverse a lot. I live in Northwest Bradenton. It would be, that's just basically a very narrow, dangerous two-lane road. Oftentimes I'll encounter mothers pushing baby carriages down that road. It's positively frightening. I don't understand, most of those homes are way off the roadway. Surely the citizens there on Riverview Boulevard could, you know, spare a few feet to put, again, continuous sidewalk and bike lanes. I just got back from the Women's World Cup in France, and you know, there's a lane for the train, there's 2 lanes going each way for the cars, there's a barrier, then they ride their bikes and there's sidewalks. I mean, it's totally civilized. When you get back here to the United States, it feels like, hey, you're on your own, good luck, you know, hope that car sees you. So since we have both governmental bodies here that concern those 2 geographic areas, I would really like to hear some dialogue about this in the next 12 months, because I know the money is there. The money is available to do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ryan Bray. I hope this is the last time I have to speak in public again on this matter, or in general, just because I hate it. But we currently have a Florida statute that rectifies this problem. I'm going to give you a perfect example. On Saturday, I followed the Chief of Bradenton Police Department's direction from the last council meeting. If you see panhandler in the street violating the code, call the police department, and they'll send somebody out to take care of it. I did that. I did that on Saturday. Called the Bradenton Police Department, 75th and Manatee. And the police department showed up, parked about 5 feet from the individual who, at that time, was not going to violate any panhandling or, well, Florida Statute 3.1 or 316 spot 2045. They're handcuffed. There's nothing they can do unless they catch them in the act of doing it. We all know that they're doing it. There's not many people that in this county that don't understand this epidemic. And it is an epidemic. It's getting worse. We elected all of you to take care of this. Take care of it. We elected you to do this. Now, we have the attorneys that are scared of the city and the county being sued. I find it odd that all these other counties and cities are going forward on it, but we're sitting on the sidelines while it gets worse here. It's time for action. This is only getting worse. Please do something. Otherwise, we'll vote you all out. Period. End of question.
Thank you. Next, yes, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jill Rockline, and I'm sure I met most of you this week. I spoke at the county meeting, and then I also spoke at the city meeting about my personal experience with a panhandler, and it happened to me. It could happen to all of you. I am active in the community. I've served many, many years as a volunteer in all aspects, and it is frightening what's happening in our communities. And I plead with the county level and the city level to please come together and try something, whether it's street signs, whether it's to educate the public, whether it's to try an ordinance. We don't want anything negatively to happen to the panhandlers. They are sisters, brothers, moms, dads, granddaughters, grandsons. They are people. We don't want anything bad to happen to them. But we all want to feel safe in our community. Going to the grocery store, filling our gas, taking a walk with our animal. We want to feel safe in our community. Please come together and try something. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
For the record, Glenn Giblin, community activist, affordable housing advocate. I'm going to go off topic here a little bit because I can. So, you're all aware of the Alice report. It's my Bible. It's facts and numbers. I just want to reiterate those facts. I'm like a broken record, but I'm still playing. Affordable housing. We have none. We don't have any. We're 50,000 units short. Economic communities need affordable housing. They live in food forests, food deserts, and educational deserts. The average home in our community is over $250,000. 44% of the 400,000 citizens in our town live check to check. I don't know why we're not doing anything about it. $75,000 homeless kids in the state of Florida. 2,000 in Manatee County. Are we addressing these issues? Of course not. The new schools. When we open a new school and we have our big developers, they don't put any affordable housing aside. Our big developers in our communities have not built 1 square foot of affordable housing. So we need to come to terms. When the Sadowski Fund is getting raided by the legislation, and it's criminal in my mind, then the local communities and governments need to step up to the plate and replenish those funds so we can do some affordable housing. $100 for a new building code permit is not going to make one difference to the developers that are selling homes from $250,000 to $1 million. Entry-level responders, school teachers cannot afford to live in those gated communities. So we need to start thinking about what we're going to do about that. Accessory dwelling units, we worked on it for a year. It's going back to the drawing board. We have visionaries in this room. Got them right in this room. Let's look at the city of Bradenton. 9 years they've had their accessory dwelling units on the books. Has anybody even bothered to call them and say, hey, we got these people from Whitfield Estates and, they're going to derail this whole thing. 9 years it's been on the books. You don't see the developers going in there and making party houses because it's not going to happen. So I would urge the county to get back on track and allow the accessory dwelling units. The city of Bradenton, smaller footprints, smaller lots, higher density incremental lots. That's the solution to the housing problem. So I would urge the county to fast track the accessory dwelling units. Let's make a difference in our community. And, you know, the panhandling, I'm just going to close with this. If we have an interlocal agreement, like Carol said, from the county to go into the city, then just make the city go into the county. You know, track them down. If they're going to go across the street, go after them. All right, thank you for this time.
Thank you, Glenn. Is there anybody else from the public at this point that would like to come down? Okay, see nobody, will close public comment. Any officials have any? Misty?
I just have a couple of comments about some of the comments made on panhandling, and then I have a question for our school district. Did they leave?
Yep.
Darn it. Okay. So just a couple of things in response to Mr. McAnder's comments. I know that Turning Points and Centerstone are proactively out on the streets because I've spoken to them personally about individuals on the street. There's a woman named Dorothy who lives near Walmart on Cortez Road at a bus shelter. I've stopped, I've talked with her several times, I've provided her with a sandwich and drinks, and she is there because she wants to be there. And when I talk with Centerstone and Turning Points, they know her very well, and they regularly see her, but she has the right to turn away their assistance, and she does. And there are many others who do. I've talked to Centerstone, and they have very good information on who these people are, where they are, what their needs are, and how they've been in touch with them. So I want you to know that there is a proactive effort to try and get people help if they want it. In your example, Mr. McAnders, about the person who needed a special antibiotic and it wasn't available anywhere else, that very well may have been a real situation. I've been approached with numerous stories about babies who are sick in the hospital and people who are stranded and need gas money, and many of the stories are very heart-wrenching. And I'm not here to say if they're true or not true. I don't know. But there's a lot of that out there. What I do know is that we have a great community that is filled with many agencies and many nonprofits who do have resources to help people who want help. There's help for housing, there's help for food, there's help for medical care. And I can tell you I know this personally as someone who's had a family member who has been homeless and on the streets, and I've worked to help him get the help he needs. So there is a lot of help available. We need to get to those who want the help and provide it to them, absolutely. We're responsible to do that. We're also responsible, though, to our tourism industry, to our residents, to our businesses. We're responsible to them also. And panhandling is having a very negative effect on that. My question for the school board, I'll just say it so that maybe somebody out there in TV land sees it, is that I heard Ms. Saunders say that they heard our concerns last meeting about transportation, and they made some changes in that regard because of it. And I'd like to know just some more details on what was changed. Thank you.
Okay. Carol?
I'm one for follow-up, and my issue that I brought up, working with the city of Bradenton about the water quality in Palmasola Bay, and I know part of it's the state too, but I didn't get like a nod. Were you interested in bringing it before your board just to see, or talk to and work with Manatee County and coming up with some kind of solutions? Like we had just said, we're going to have the oyster release, which is close to Palmasola Bay, where we're going to do that by Robinson Preserve. I just think that these kind of issues that are so important now, the state's actually giving funding, federal government as well as the state for moat and all the issues we have with algae. I think we all need to be working together and not in our silos. So I still wanted to know if the city of Bradenton, the islands aren't involved with this, or I would be asking you too, but just if the city of Bradenton at least would work with Manatee County to come up with some kind of ways to improve water quality in the Palmasola Bay. And if you want to take it back to your boards, I'm not asking for money. There's always state, you know, we could get the pilot program like we're talking about to seed the rivers and, you know, others. And I just didn't hear whether there's any appetite from your cities.
Yeah, we'd be happy to work with the county on that. We have
What's
it,
that?
we have in a lot of projects, so we're willing to do that.
Okay, so then our staffs can talk and,
Yeah, and what we would like, when you have initiatives in the county like that, that you want our cooperation, we'd love to have someone come before our board
okay.
and ask there rather than the council of government.
Well, and we'd like it if you had something to work with us too. It goes both ways, and that's what I'm saying. We could save money, and we could apply for state funding together, and usually that works better when jurisdictions are working together. So, yeah, I agree. And if you're working on stuff, we would love to be involved, or vice versa, if you want us. So, I think it's time we cross jurisdiction lines when it comes to this water quality stuff.
Yeah, if I may just interject there, Carol, I think maybe that's a good thing we'll put on our agenda and direct our staff to work with the city of Braden and Palmetto and everyone, and then report back to us, because I find it better if we give them a timeline that will at least get some more, like you say, close the loop on this thing so we know what's happening. So maybe the next board meeting, we can do that on the agenda. I think Shirley had a comment or two. Kill you.
Actually, it's along those same lines, because we are hoping to seed part of our shoreline in Palmetto as well. And I had just sent an email to Charlie Hunsicker inquiring as to whether he was aware of some state or federal funding along those lines to help us with our project that we're moving forward on. So, you know, again, working together, because everything that we've done along our shoreline with the reef balls and so forth that is with the intention of helping to purify the water, you know, having the habitat there that will help purify the water. So we just want to grow that, because it's not just Palmetto or Bradenton or, you know, even Manatee County for that matter. It's everybody. So, you know, we're really trying to do our part.
Thank you.
Seeing nobody else, the next meeting of the Council of Governments is scheduled for October the 1st. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.